everybody, and welcome to a fantastic 2014. I hope everybody had a really good Christmas and a really good New Year. Hope everybody was safe and responsible. So I know you guys haven't had any new videos from me in a while. Maybe some of you guys know, maybe you don't, but I'm actually the lead artist on a new comic book that's going to be coming out next year. And so that sort of like took over the last 3 or 4 months of 2013 for me. So unfortunately, a lot of the toy reviews had to take a back seat to that. But we're starting off 2014 with a bang. We're going to be looking at this new Walking Dead 10-inch figure here. We're going to be looking at the last 4 Masterpiece figures released in the Transformers line. We got some Star Wars The Black Series figures, Montana from Masters of the Universe. We even have a Hot Toys and some NECA figures to get to. So there's a lot on the docket, and there's a lot going to be coming up new, so stay tuned right here to the Ungrownups channel on YouTube.com. But today we're going to be taking a look at the McFarlane Toys, The Walking Dead 10-inch deluxe action figure of Daryl Dixon. As you can see by the size of my hand, this is a pretty big guy. This is also a really good collector-friendly box. You just open up the side, pull the tray out, everything comes out, goes right back in, and you can display it in the package if you like. So as you can see, he's got the crossbow, got 3 arrows. He comes wearing a vest, which you can remove. He also has a knife, and he's got his poncho, which is really cool. There's a really cool picture of Norman Reedus right here, the guy who plays Daryl Dixon. Shot of the figure there on the side of the box. Pretty nice, nice photography of the figure right here on the side. You can see 10-inch Daryl Dixon deluxe action figure right there. And then here on the back, you can see more pictures of the figures there. Some cross-sell with Series 4, and even a teaser for the Daryl Dixon on his motorcycle. This, of course, is the 6-inch scale, and that'll be coming out soon, January, February, maybe even into March. We may be getting this the Series 5. So, you know, I'm not sure if McFarlane's got plans to do any more 10-inch figures. I would love a Rick. I'd even love a zombie. Maybe even the old governor may be really cool to have in 10-inch form. I probably won't be getting too many, maybe Rick if they make him, but I won't be getting many of these figures because they're just so big. They look great. They've got really good sculpting and paint, but, you know, as with McFarlane, he really makes statues, not playable action figures. So I don't think I'll be picking up too many of this guy, but I'm a huge Daryl Dixon fan, as are many, so I had to pick this guy up. I did pick him up at BigBadToyStore.com, picked him up for $32.99. There'll be a link in the About section below where you can pick up your very own, but I've also seen him in my local toy store. He was in Toys R Us. I picked him up, or you can pick him up at Toys R Us. He was $29.99. So, you know, without further ado, let's get this guy cracked open and take a closer look. So here we have Daryl Dixon opened up out of the package. You can see he does come with a poncho. Here it is here, so better look at it there. We'll put it on in just a second. You see he comes with his knife and, of course, his trusty crossbow. Now, this is the second crossbow that he has used in the show. It's not the one he used in Season 1 and 2. I think this is the newest one that he's used for Season 3 and 4. When he got to the prison, he actually found a better crossbow between seasons. So it's got the green camo detail. The arrows all have the green tips as opposed to the standard black crossbow and the orange tipped arrows that he had in the earlier seasons. Really nice head sculpt. We're going to look at this a lot closer in just a minute. Just wanted to show you overall details of the figure. He does come with a vest. This is removable. You can see he's got the rag hanging out of his back pocket there. It's also pretty cool. So there are some articulation points on this guy. They're pretty much useless. Because as you know, with McFarlane toys, they pretty much are statues. But I, you know, did not get this guy for the articulation. I'm a huge Norman Reedus fan, huge Daryl Dixon fan. I think this guy is fantastic. So definitely wanted to pick this up as he is my favorite zombie killer on The Walking Dead. So I just wanted to give you a quick overview. Let's zoom in and take a closer look at some of the fine detail that McFarlane Toys sculpted into this awesome figure. Of course, they've got a 10-inch canvas to work with, so it's a little easier to put some good detail in there, but pretty cool nonetheless. So let's zoom in and take a closer look. Okay, so here's a little close-up of the figure. I've got him up on the turntable, so sorry for the grinding sound. That is the loudest turntable in the history of turntables. But I just wanted to give you a quick view of the figure before we lock him down and look at the head sculpt in a static position. But I just wanted to give you a quick up and down of the figure. See lots of detail in the jeans, dirt, mud, stuff caked on his jeans. The boots look very nice. You can see the individual laces on the shoes. I really like this detail coming around here on this knee, where you can see they've actually sculpted the pants open, and his knee is poking out, just like on the show. Like the rag hanging out on the back, a little pop of pink color back there. There's the knife, which is removable from that sheath. I like the stitching on the side of the vest as well. Lots of really nice detail. As you can see, it looks like he's only got the top button of that gray overshirt that's underneath. Only that gray top button is buttoned, which is pretty cool. And like I said, this outer vest with the angel wings, it is removable. It is a separate piece. Looks really nice. Some really nice detail on that vest. And coming around here, for once, McFarlane Toys has a decent head sculpt on Daryl Dixon. That's really cool. The original figure, not so much. But not a bad figure overall. There is some articulation points. We will go over that. But like I said, they're pretty useless because this figure was sculpted to really look good in one position and one position only. So let's lock this guy down and take a closer look at some of the detail. Okay, so here's a close-up shot of the head sculpt here on Daryl Dixon, and I apologize right off the bat. My camera has a tendency to sort of intensify and darken colors, so his head, the paint on his face is coming across very kind of orange. On the back of my camera, I can see it's a lot darker than it is in hand. In hand, it's actually a muted, very very nice, subtle skin tone. It's not nearly this tan. And dark, but as you can see, it's a pretty decent head sculpt. If anything, it's probably he probably has a little too much weight in his cheeks, a little too much fat in the cheeks. I think Daryl's got has got a much skinnier face. But other than that, I'm pretty happy with this head sculpt. I think Daryl is he seems to be a pretty hard nut to crack when it comes to getting some head sculpts. I've seen some custom 1/6 scale head sculpts of Norman Reedus, and I've never really been happy with them. And of course, I'm not all that happy with the head sculpt on the original McFarlane 6-inch scale Daryl Dixon. But this one is not too bad. I love the hair coming over the ear. I love the individual hair, the head sculpt on this, the hair on the head sculpt. It looks fantastic. Of course, when you're dealing with a 10-inch figure, of course, you can get a lot more detail in there. And that's an odd thing, the 10 inches. I mean, I don't see why McFarlane didn't just go ahead and do a 12-inch version of this figure. It just seems very odd, a 10-inch scale. But I got to tell you, I'm not too disappointed with it. It's quite nice, actually. Not too big, not too small. So, there's this, looking at the left side of his face, or the right side of his face, sorry. It's just, overall, it's a really, really nice head sculpt, and I'm quite impressed with it. It's not perfect, but but I can see it. I see Norman Reedus in there, so can't give it a perfect passing score, but it looks pretty good. I'm just going to tilt down a little bit here, so you can see some of the other detail. And I apologize if you guys can hear the rain. It's a cold, dreary winter day here in Florida. You can see some of the detail here on the right here. There's some really nice lace work. You can see the rivets are painted. Got some like some bronze grommets in there for where the stitching would go. See some nice wrinkle and fold detail in the outfit. Sorry. It's another look at the detailing and the stitching on this side. It looks really, really, really good. You can tell that he actually does have on 3 layers of clothing at this point. You can see he's got his outer vest, which is removable, and we'll take that off in just a second. He has on a gray undershirt and then a blue like denim shirt on underneath it. So very, very nice detail there. Tilting it down a little bit further, you can see some really nice detail here on the pants, where the pant is actually cut and a knee is protruding out, which is really nice. Very accurate to the TV show. Very nice detail. I'm glad they added. That's simply not painted on. That's actually recessed in 2. So it's like they left the hole there on the pant, and then the knee was put in separately. It's very nice detail. And some nice detail on the paint work down here as well. You can see mud and dirt just caked all over these shoes. And sorry, I want to make sure you can see this. You can see the laces on the shoes and the stitching. It's very nice detail down here on the shoes. I love the stitching on the bottom of the jeans, the mud. It's just fantastic. They did a really, really good job with this figure. Overall, I'm just extremely happy with this guy. And, you know, like I said before, it's an odd size, but not an unwelcome one. I actually I dig it. It's not too big to sort of compete with Hot Toys, you know, 1/6 scale 12-inch figures. And it's definitely, you know, it's twice as big as McFarlane's other line. So it's really, really, really cool. We're going to take a closer look at the crossbow, and I'm going to go ahead and look at the articulation first before we look at the weapons, because I want to look at the articulation before we put the poncho on him and finish this thing up. Okay, so taking a closer look at the articulation on this guy, we'll start up here at the head, and it's just a simple cut joint on the head. So as you can see, you can turn it, but it's going to look very bizarre. What I would have preferred is if they would have sculpted, like recessed down into the neck, the whole head and neck had been on like a ball joint that was recessed down into the chest cavity, so that you could tilt the head, you know, this way, that way, and then turn it in a natural position. As such, you can never really display the figure from his right side. You always have to display the figure from his left side with him looking over the shoulder. It looks good, and maybe that's why they took so much care in making the back of the jacket look great, because you're not going to see this much of it. I don't know, it's kind of odd to me, but whatever. This arm is articulated, but it's got a single cut joint at the elbow, at the shoulder, and no swivel joints anywhere else on the arm. But you do have some movement, a cut joint at the wrist. But it is very hindered by the sculpt of the sleeve of the leather vest, or his leather jacket. This arm, same thing. You have a cut joint at the shoulder, and you can rotate the wrist much easier. The sleeve is a lot easier. It's a lot more forgiving. There is a extremely useless joint here at the waist. It looks like the figure can turn, but as you can hear and see, it's extremely difficult to get him to turn. And of course, again, useless because he can only look in one direction. No articulation in the legs, and the feet are on, like, ever so slightly a rocker joint. So you do get a little bit of play in the feet, but not lots, because again, the pants are they very much hinder the foot articulation, because the pants leg does hang down underneath, and they chose to hide that joint. Really and truly, with the exception of the arms at the shoulders, this figure should not be articulated. This figure should have 2 points of articulation, and that's it. You know, McFarlane Toys is just, they're known for this. It's what they do. And, you know, I think it just really limits the posability of their figures. They sort of design them to stand in one direction, in one pose, and that's pretty much it. But at least the pose they give us is pretty iconic. So we're going to do one more cut here. I'm going to put the poncho on and get him suited up with his crossbow, and we'll take one last look at this figure before we close out the review. Okay, so here's a look at the figure with the poncho on, and I got to tell you, I actually prefer the poncho being on. It's just, it just looks so nice and so natural. It's a very soft, you know, pliable plastic. It's got some really nice texture, so it does feel very much like burlap or a very heavy textured canvas. The way you get this on is the head is actually removable. You just pop the head off. It's sculpted to sit perfectly to line up with his shoulders and his collar. And so it makes a very tight seal around the neck area, and then you just pop the head right back on. It's not really hard to do. I would say that the most difficult thing to do is to actually get the crossbow into his right hand, because the fingers are very tight. They're not connected, but they're very tight, and you really have to like force the fingers open really far to wedge the handle of that hand in there. Luckily, the trigger finger is very pliable and goes right into the trigger slot, no problem. But the three fingers here are very tight. You have to force them open quite a bit, and it sits very naturally in that hand. And it just looks absolutely fantastic. Right here, you will notice that there are three, let me tilt it, you can see three different arrows that come with the figure, and they can fit in any way you want. They can fit into the crossbow. They have, I believe, 4 slots. There is an arrow already notched, and let's see if I can show you this. You can see how the arrow lifts up on this end. You can see it's loose, and I can bend it up, and you can see the arrow in there, but it doesn't unnotch from the back. It's kind of painted in or glued in. So you do have some additional arrows, which are nice. It's a nice little touch, and you get to put those in, but they're just made to hold right there. So I'm really glad they added that. And I'll tilt it down real quick, and I want to show you, because I didn't show you this in another section. I'll show you the knife, which slides in and out very easily in his sheath. But really and truly, I just wish they would have just sculpted this in and not made it removable, because his hands are not sculpted in any way to sort of hold the knife. If he could have held the knife in one hand and maybe come with a pistol or maybe a shotgun, or I don't know, if they had just designed it in a way to where the figure could have held an additional weapon, I would understand the purpose of the knife being removable. But as is, it's just kind of a prop. So all in all, you know, this figure doesn't have a lot of articulation, and we've covered that, and so it doesn't have a lot of playability or mobility, but I gotta tell you, it looks absolutely fantastic. And for $30, you can't beat this. I mean, if you were to sort of affix this guy to a nice lacquered, you know, wood or marbled base, and just set him up, he would look like a very expensive $200-300 statue. No doubt about it. He looks absolutely fantastic, and I'm very, very happy to add this version of Daryl Dixon to my collection, because I am a super huge fan of his on the show. So that's going to about do it for this review. We hope that you dug it, and welcome again to 2014. We're sort of changing things up here on the Ungrownups. We're sort of filming in a different part of the house. You notice some updated graphics and music. We're just kind of refreshing for 2014. So be sure to check out our website at ungrownups.com, and as always, you can get all of our new toy reviews right here on youtube.com/ungrownups. So until next time, peace.